Thank you for tuning in to Andronetalks Radio, gathering as one in our sovereign truth from a galactic perspective, exploring our world with new ideas, knowledge, and a promise of a better future. Galactic discussions for galactic-minded people. Andronetalks.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on Andronetalks Radio. And we're doing, I'm doing a live show. I don't usually do this. Most people know me from just listening and audio only usually. But anyhow, we always cover some really interesting topics. And today I have the privilege of having Bob Wiegand on the show. And he did a fantastic job on Project Camelot. I heard him speaking, and I started to see some interesting parallels. I had multiple people contact me and say, hey, he's talking about the revocations or, claiming back our sovereignty and some of the other issues. And then, of course, the topics of the Pleiadians. And we just, there had been about 2 or 3 areas that I was like, wow, that was just spot on, So I was really thrilled. A friend of mine introduced us. And so that appreciate that you're available. So without any further delay, I just want to welcome you on the show and thank you for being here.
Welcome very much. Thank you very much. Welcome very much. I didn't even expect to do that first video with Carrie. I mean, it was like I talked to her on the phone 2 minutes and then she said, you're going on the show. And then that's just what happened. And I've been on the phone and email and texting and WhatsApp for like around the clock for 8 days, 9 days now. And it's been no negative. No one's like said you're a fraud, which I was ready for that. And,
because they don't know. But, Carrie, she's amazing. I just want to say that I really admire her work. She's been doing this for a while, and she actually did a great interview with Dave Corso, who, I actually did a radio show in Wolf Spirit Radio when he was running it before he died. He was a super soldier, so she did a fantastic job, and I always admire her for some of the work that she's done to make it easier for people like us to talk. So, but
she was really helpful with me to get it out of me because I think that's the most I've ever revealed, I guess. I do little pieces once in a while, but she really knew how to get it out of me. She let me be just me, I guess. So. What's going on with this pandemic is really amazing. It's created a worldwide chaos. I have people all over the world contacting me, and they're all under the same lockdown as we are. And it's at different levels in different areas of the world. Some places are really serious, and other places are just like LA and San Diego. It's very difficult to manage those people, and they're just kind of going about their day. But what's going on here is something that is really fantastic, and this message is now able to come out. I've tried in the past, and I only got like really bad things happen to me afterwards. So this time nothing's happened to me, but I have been challenged by these controllers time and again that I'm trespassing or that I'm entering into areas that's their area, and they're very territorial. And as we just had that experience, and it's really about checkmating the situation at hand and then departing in a mutual respect with each other, not to engage with any negative emotions, because they just spin that up, and to realize it's just a game. And it's kind of like family members. They're all family, actually. And it's kind of like, you have that crazy black sheep brother or sister or dad.
Yeah.
And, everyone just kind of deals with them at the family reunion. And it's kind of like that. And you do it in a nice, jovial way. And then everybody leaves, in their own form of respect.
Well, they've
And
been around for so long, like you said, that almost like if we were to bump into them, if they had took on their physical form, and we were to bump into them, there would be kind of a familiarity about them because I think they've
correct.
been around for so long. Our souls would recognize them for a very long time, and so that's the scary part about it because they also know us very well and can get into our heads.
So we can get to
If
know
we
them
allowed
very
it.
well by connecting to our spirit that resides in our head. But we have to clear out the negativity in our heart and work with our heart emotion, get our emotions under discipline, and through our heart consciousness, we can get into our spirit, and then we unlock that rule book. And the rule book just teaches us how to checkmate them and to create our own space and to create our own destiny. And we should have the freedom to do that. I mean, we have the right to do that.
Right.
And so we were talking about the revocation, bringing back our free will. We give out our free will in fragments like blood oaths, contracts, covenants, temple endowments in the Mormon church. I mean, you can make a contract with a guy just by saying, yeah, I'll buy that car. And
I agree.
legally, they can take you to court and make you to buy the car.
Yeah.
So it's the spoken word, it's the gesture, it's the receiving of something handed to you. And so these are all forms of contract. In law school, I studied contract law, and that was the most entertaining part of law school because it really made my brain turn upside down and having a whole new perspective on things. And then when I realized this whole game is all about perspective, and so I went from this position of oppression and feeling like a dog on a chain and being dragged through the mud, and then to like, okay, I'll follow you a little bit, and then realizing that they're just beating me down in a verbal way to get me to do things on a reactionary level. So then I started pulling back some more and becoming the observer, and then I realized I didn't have to do anything they said, but then they got really violent with me, and then I started realizing that there was a way. A gentleman showed me how to checkmate him, and that the rule book's inside our spirit and how to access that rule book. And it was really quite simple, and it was just basically it's just a conversation and an awareness. And I had to start looking at like in the back of the right here, because they come into people back here. They kind of linger back here. They always want to stay out of view. Remote viewers and all these other things. There's a lot of different ways they do it, but we're easily hijacked. We're like tapped into bioelectrically by them because they like to travel through electricity, and they know how to do that. They're super advanced. We're not going to win any battle with them, but if we deal with them in love and compassion, and basically, ask them questions back, like, is that really? So what are the rules? And what is trespassing? And start questioning them. They get kind of like twisted around the axle about it, because what I found them to do is they take the rules, creational rules, laws, like laws of free will, laws of cause and effect and stuff, and they skirt the edges of them and like cut the corners, and they try to get in the cracks and create loopholes. Wow, sounds like a court of law, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Guess where the court of law came from?
Yeah, that's where it came from. Yeah.
Yep. And so then they try to get you to do it so that you end up with the cause and effect and all the ramifications of it. And they sit back there and they're like the little kid in the playground instigating everybody throwing sand on each other's buddy. And so, and when I realized that, I go, oh, dude, this is like a sandpit game. This is like elementary school. And so their rule book, the rule book of the spirit law is it as we evolve, the rules don't change. They just work at a higher level. And whereas these guys, their rule book is like a paragraph, and that's about it. Because they have to go and they have to cut the little edges off of all the creational laws that govern us in this current time setting. And then they try to get us to break them. Mm-hmm. And so when you do something, that's avoidable contract, by the way, because you were never given notice. So they're really not giving notice. So what I found is they give notice through things like movies, TV shows, the news channels,
social media.
They actually do it through people. Some people will sit there and they go, ooh, they got their little, I don't know, my favorite Martian antennas come out and they say, I'm channeling so-and-so and he's saying this, and 3 pages later, you don't know what the heck they talked about. And so these are all forms of notice, which is in a court of law is absolutely mandatory in order for you to have an effective action against somebody. Mm-hmm. So all I'm doing is just putting them on notice. They're not giving me notice. They're giving me a avoidable contract. So I put them on notice and I tell them, well, the notice is this is the rules. And So they went like this. They go, this is when everything changed for me, the perspective. We want you to call us the honorable ones. Why? Well, because we follow the rules. And I thought, okay, that's great. So why do you do this? Well, we're really proud of you because you now have access to the rule book and you've graduated and you've finished our little school. And of course, if you break the rules, we'll take you as far as you want to go. But now that you've graduated and found the rules and have checkmated us, so to speak, we're going to be honorable about it and we'll go our way. And we want to know that we're proud of you. And I just thought, wow, these guys, they take credit for everything. They want credit for every turn of the screw. It's amazing. So you just don't engage. And you create your own new reality. So what's what happens?
So just to let people know from the definition of the controllers, these are these ancient beings that are essentially running our government, running our world, using puppeting the Illuminati, because those are pretty much figureheads and avatars where they go in and out and kind of.
Yeah, I was introduced to them. And they do take a physical form, and they can walk in your room, sit down in a chair, and have a conversation with you, and drink coffee, and talk about the day. Yeah. They actually can do that, and they do that with some leaders of the world. And they present a Luciferian philosophy, which is gets all of the leaders that are not in the know into this religion that they're outside themselves, and they never get to their rule book, and so they get to these nefarious rules of Luciferianism, and they think they're enlightened. And what's interesting to note is, I'll have to do this in a story form. I was shown like a pit, and people were like looking in the pit, and they were going where they looked. You go wherever you look, and they were going into the pit. And so I looked down in the pit, and I was in the pit, and I was looking around, and it was pitch black, and it had no bottom to its depth. Kind of like the Bible talks about the pit of hell. There's no bottom to it. And I was looking around. There's light. There's actually darkness has its own light. And when I realized it was the illumination of the spirits that were in the pit. They were creating their own illumination, so they think they're illuminated, but it's their spirit. And even though it's quite dull, it's still like they're the sun versus the moon.
Still some light force. Life force is left a little bit.
Some life force is left. They're kind of asleep, and so it's kind of like a dull radiation of light. And so it appeared to me that was the light that was creating in the darkness, where they were like, I don't know, but people call it enslaving souls, capturing souls. A soul is like a spirit in the body. That's the definition of soul that I've understood. So I call it a spirit because it's actually spirit form. And then we can go into greater detail about this, but I think I'll leave it at that because I don't really want to lose anyone in this. So I want to tell you about an interesting conversation I had today. This gentleman that's been helping me with this process of, I guess you call it gaining my freedom. I had some darkness in my heart. It was really dark for the things that I did in the past. And I asked him to help me clear. I didn't ask him. I just said, I got this darkness. I don't know how to get out of it. And he goes, oh, here, let me help you. And he went, and blew it out of me. And then that was 18 months ago. And he started connecting me to these higher vibrational people. And then they started working on me. And I just kind of had to allow it to happen. It's not really any work. A lot of people ask me, like, how do I raise my vibration? How do I get my pineal activated? How do I find the rule book? How do I do this? How do I do that? And really, it's effortless. That's my neighbor in the motorcycle. He's bored. So
I think we're losing you in the screen.
Oh, okay. I know. I'm growing. I'm evolving.
Yeah.
Here, let me fix this. Okay.
There you go. Okay.
All right. So I'll get into this, man. So it's really quite effortless. I had to get out of the way. I had to allow it to happen. And I monitored it, and I realized it was a good thing, and that I was getting lighter, and that I was like, my spirit, it felt like the spirit within me was starting to flow through my body. Like it was coming out to have its own time, because the spirit and the conscious mind, the material mind, are different. The conscious mind can believe a lie and a truth at the exact same time, and that's where the fallibility of us is, and that's why they get us into religions, to get us outside ourselves. We have to go to some guy, he's got to mediate for us to some other guy, and then we got to go say we're sorry, and then our sins are forgiven because of some other dude, and then we have this other dude over there that we don't even know about that's like Holy Ghost or a spirit or somebody, and that's the spirit within you. So they took how we're built, and they created a religion out of it, and this was done, I think, by the Pleiadians ancient times ago. And it was a funny story. My buddy was telling me, well, because he did a lot of research on it. They did that because we were copulating so much and making so many babies. They had to find a way to put us under control. So they gave us a religion and saying sex is bad.
Right. And to
But it didn't work.
depopulate or some
It
sort.
just made people evil-minded. And they said,
Mm-hmm.
you know what, if it's bad, I'm going to do it because that's good, because bad's good. And so it created this all messed up, perverted mess. And so when it came to this Billy Meier story, and I really started digging into it and talking about the Plejarians and all that, I found them to be quite nefarious more than they were helpful.
Right.
And they were giving half-truths. And it's all about what are they doing right now, this very day? What are they doing right now? They're operating like a cult. Well, that ain't going to help anyone. So
if you travel right now to Switzerland, they're operating like a cult right now.
Oh, yeah.
That's what's in that location.
Yeah, so this is what it's like when you go there. I got there on the plane. I took a train, and then I took an automobile. Oh, this is crazy. And then it was a bus, and then the dude dropped me off. All I said was like, I think Billy Meier or Hinterschmidt Rudy, and he knew right where to go. And then I got off, and I was standing there on a gravel drive path, and he said, go down that road. And it was a really long road, and I'm like, this is really weird. So I'm with my backpack walking down the road, and the house finally appears. I don't know, it's about a half mile down the road. And I just walk up, and there's nobody there to challenge me. And I'm just like knocking on the door, and they bring me in. And so the days where I would work all day cutting lumber for their fire for the winter. And then in the evening, I could ask questions. And then I think on Sundays was like a day off. So it's a commune setting. And you just can't like go there and study and read and all that stuff. They put you to work. And I thought it was really quite weird, and I thought it was really quite boring, and I thought it was really quite like brain nullifying and not stimulating. I figured, well, maybe they're just like getting into this deep meditation of all this stuff. I found out about these red books called spirit teaching books, and I got those, and it appeared to me that it was like half truths coming out of it. He wasn't telling the whole story, only pieces of it. And so you kind of had to like really dig inside yourself to connect the dots. And so I started doing that. And then I would come back with questions and stuff. And I basically just got dumb answers. And I realized after many, many meetings for a couple of years with one of the groups in Arizona that they were going down the road. I warned them every time I saw them, this is becoming a religion. And it did. And I kind of did it like this. I said, one day I said, I want to ask a question with you guys. Because they always like balked at me and thought I was like a joker calling them. I called it Sunday school.
Yeah.
they would read like a paragraph and then pass the book and then read a paragraph, and I'm, dude, this is like Sunday school. And so there was no personal experiences. There was no how they got there. There was none of that stuff. It was just reading out of the book. So I said, all right, I have a question. Who of you have been a high priest in a church or a missionary or a minister? And no hands raised. I raised my hand. Who of you have been in special forces and worked with the spec ops agencies like the CIA and whatnot? Nobody raised their hand. I raised my hand. I go, who of you have worked in the computer industry, in database management and in development of hardware and software and computer forensics with the FBI Secret Service and Treasury Department? I was the only one that raised my hand. I go, who of you have been here to law school? I was the only one. Who of you have been like a commercial diver underwater looking at nature and looking at how animals interact with each other? No one. Who of you is a marine biologist who studies the environment for reporting to all the agencies and like all kinds of agencies that read it, Army Corps of Engineers and whatnot? And of course, no one raised their hand. And then I realized what these guys are guys that sit in their bedroom, they read a book, and they become an authority on it, and then they go sit together, and they all read the book, and they're all trying to make sense of the book. And so they ended up calling Billy Meier Being, Billy Edward Albert Meier. And I said, why don't you just call him the God beam? Kind of reminds me in the Bible, if you have a beam in your eye, what was it? Why are you like complaining about the beam in that guy's eye when you have a mote in yours?
Well, yeah,
and
it's
so,
talking about, like it means a stick or something, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, talk about guys they were just like off. And so I finally sat down with some of these guys, the key players, and I said, I'm going to tell you a story. I was introduced to what I call the table of 450, which is, they call it the Committee of 300. And at that time, George Bush Sr. sat on the table. And I said, and I was also introduced to what I call the controllers, these ETs that live a long time. They're super advanced. They're light years ahead of us. You're not going to win anything toe to toe with them. They've been here a long time, man. They feel like they own us. And they use us like food in a way. Like they take our negative energy and they eat it. That's what I was told. And so I got a chance to see how they talk, how they operate, how their hierarchical structure is, that they actually run like a military organization, and they have deployments where they come here and they leave. And it seems like each person is assigned one of these guys. These guys' goals are to create chaos. And so they can be anywhere from like just kind of around the area to getting in the back of your neck, or I see a smoke between the back of people's ears, to where they actually interface into the cerebellum and spinal cord of the individual. They're actually hardwired into the person, and they can hide inside the person. And the only way I've been able to detect that is they seem to at times allow the real person to come out. Will the real person stand up? Like those game shows, and that person comes out and chats with you and has a good time. You may marry him and all that kind of stuff. And then when you're not looking, the real bad dude comes out and they start doing really crazy stuff that nobody normally would do. Right. And then you start getting confused, like, what's wrong with you? They become almost like a sociopathic killer in a way. They're like become a serial killer mentality is what they become. They become like psychotic, but it can be healed. It can be fixed. That's what I found out. Right. So I actually had someone that this was last summer. I didn't know about this until last summer. So I'm working with this spiritual guy for like 18 months, and my heart's changing, and a lot of things are changing, and he's connecting me to other sources. He's presenting me to others, and it has a really impactful, beautiful. I found my spirit flowing through and through myself, and that my heart became happy. And so I started joking around a lot more, because I was a real stiff dude. I was really stiff, really tense guy. And so I'm joking around and everything, and I want to tell a story here really quick. There's some people need to hear this one story. I'm moving fast, talking fast, and I don't want to lose anyone. So I'm going to stop and tell a nice little ditty. And it's a beautiful story. So I'm married to this girl, and some things go down at the house. I've been trying not to get on the radio and expose this. I had a little radio show for a while. I closed it down. My house is like haunted. These nefarious guys are like doing all kinds of spiritual battles on me, and they're really painful. They can really take a toll on you.
They can destroy you. Yeah,
yep.
They can.
They almost killed me.
Yeah.
And so I was under a lot of distress, and I took the 3 kids down to this little restaurant, and my wife's ex-husband is down there. He's a really nice guy. It just didn't work out with him, and I like him, but I have really no reason to go down there and hang out with him. You know what I mean? So for whatever reason, I went down there, and I was having lunch with the kids and me, and he was serving us, and he doesn't know who I am. I never go down there. And a drunk lady starts talking to my little boy, and I said, "Hey, could you please leave him alone?" And I could see these like nefarious ones hanging around her, and she starts touching them. I go, "Please leave my little boy alone." And so I got up and I went around the other side to pay the bill, and she followed me. And I go, his name was David. And I go, "Hey, David, could you tell her to leave me alone?" And he went like this, what? He didn't know what was going on. And he goes, "Hey, lady, go sit down." And he goes, "What's going on?" And I go, "Dude, I have this problem." And I told her, with my wife, I said the name, and he goes, "What? Oh, man." He goes, "I know exactly." And he reached out. He goes to AA, and he reached out and he gave me a hug. And I termed it the empathy hug. He had empathy for me. I could feel it. And when he did that, all these dudes went like, pa-ching! Like they rebounded off of me and got like 50 feet away and gave me a relief. I started seeing them. I started hearing them. I heard them talking about how to make another deal, how to really screw my stuff up and get into some chaotic stuff. They're going to go back and influence my wife to do these certain stupid things, and which she would never normally do. So I grabbed the kids, got in the car, and went back home. And I said, "Hey, did you make this call and for this purpose and do this thing?" And she goes, "Yeah." "How do you know?" And I never told her, because I heard the controllers discussing it, and they split, and they went right to you. And I came home to check you and see what was going on. So I tell the story because the whole moral of the story is that if you can bring empathy in for yourself, these guys move out. What I found is when they interface into the cerebellum and the autonomic nervous system, the spinal cord, that goes down to about, it's the cerebellum is here, the lower half of the cerebellum going down the spinal cord to just right here, right there, just the heart.
The solar plex. Yeah,
the solar plex. And what they do is they shut down the upper 4 chakras. So you're operating on the lower 3 chakras. And so I had to come up with some terms, and I go, a lot of people do things that if they were just totally present, they would never do it.
Right.
And we really have to be compassionate about that, because a lot of people don't really have full control over their minds. And it's really sad, because we were born into this. We didn't create this. We're like, okay.
We didn't create this paradigm, this matrix
we didn't
structure.
Create it. This is not our fault. This is not our fault.
No, it isn't.
And we are allowed in this pandemic to create a new paradigm. We're allowed, because these ding dongs created a phony paradigm of a pandemic to shut the whole world down, to create a new world order. But a lockdown, they want to do a permanent lockdown, right? Yeah, to me, from what I feel and see, you're gonna have to have a shot card to travel, like a virus vaccine card. You're not gonna be able to go between countries anymore like we do now. You're not gonna be able to move from where you are. You're pretty much stuck where you are to some degree. And right now, it's kind of a financial thing not to move. It's also kind of like a quarantine thing. But in the near future, this is about tracking.
Unless something changes. Unless we change it.
Yeah. So I was talking to this kahuna. So
no, go ahead. Finish what the paradigm was, what they wanted, so we know. So we know how to change it, how to project our change. Okay.
All right. So when he gave me the hug, the empathy hug, and moved these guys away, I eventually, through this clearing with the spiritual man, I learned to bring empathy in for myself. And when I started having empathy for myself, I started to have an empathy for humanity. And when I started doing that, they can't hang out with that. It's like acid.
Yeah.
And so I just stay in that state. And then I found that it's a game. This is a big game here. It's a game show. And so I started being jovial about it instead of getting all mad, feeling like I was imprisoned. And in the process of laughter, it weakens their position. I don't laugh at them. Be respectful. I laugh about what is being laid down as territorial, in the sense that if I'm trespassing on your territory, what exactly am I trespassing on? And that's how I do it. I don't say, I'm not trespassing on your territory. I'm going to laugh at you. Ha ha ha. Dude, you want to get your head slapped? They'll slap you. But if you go, what are we doing about this? What is this game that we're playing? If you're doing stuff in this time frame, in this world, what makes you think that it ain't going to be seen? If it gets seen, it gets seen. What are you going to do to stop that? It's just what it is. And you're trying to make a rule and get me to believe in a rule that doesn't exist? Hey, how about going to court and doing a plea bargain on something you didn't do, just so you don't have to go through the process of hiring an attorney and spending a ton of money? How do you like that? It's the same thing.
Well, Peter the Insider says it's the name of the game, he calls it. It's actually the ABBA song. It's the name of the game. And he said that exactly what you just said is that they see it's a game. They'll play with you. They'll just keep, doing whatever they can. And I guess ABBA was a part of, whether they're aware or not, but their group itself were used for the programs. And so the music is inspired for the programs and actually used in mind control. And so the name of the game is one of them. Yeah, there's a lot of information that is being used. We're getting hit on many different fronts, all different levels of through the media, through music. It starts at a very young age, and of course, they keep on changing the whole dynamic of education and how children are being taught. And of course, children are now being taught by phone, right? So, right. All this stuff, everything's program. And to get people to conform to the system, it's all about that. And for us, we're supposed to be free and sovereign. How are we going to learn or grow or experience our connection to the divine, our connection to everyone else in harmony in the world, if we're living in fear, or if we're locked up somewhere, and if we're only allowed to think about certain things, and everyone has their own skill set or whatever they want to lock us into, the assembly line, worker or the slave system. And so we all have to say, no, I don't consent to any of that. But we can't say no to something unless we know what it is that they want to do in order to lock us in. And we've been talking about this for years, but look it's actually manifested, because we didn't get enough people on board to recognize that this was coming down the road. I mean, people like you, like myself, like others, like Peter the Insider has been warning people in advance. And it's like, we have to change something, right?
I'll pull the veil back. I'll pull the curtain back and just say how I did it, how I was taught to do it, and that it works. And about an hour ago, you and I experienced it. Mm-hmm. It's called checkmating. The first process I called back my free will, and you gave me like an affirmation of sorts, and it was really good. I liked yours. I kind of made one up for myself.
Sure.
I kind of went like this. Well, you say it, because yours is better than mine.
I think we've pretty much did like a cookie cutter kind of revocation. It started off where I was had this guide communication to someone that's essentially like Odin, and I call him Rodan. And so he gave me this whole revocation one time, and I'm like, well, that's really good. And then someone started contacting me, and they said, hey, do you know that Andrew Bartzis does this too? And I said, oh, that's really interesting. I said, well, it's probably, it means something. And then I heard you mention it as well. So there is something about the spoken word, about us asserting our own sovereignty and what we deserve. So, I start off with say, I don't consent. I don't agree to any of these agendas. I break all ties, vows, contracts in all time, space, reality, past, present, future, alternate space, quantum space, in between space, parallels, with this individual, this program, or this organization, or the controllers, whatever it is. And I say it, and I want to do it right now. Because you want to break the entanglement part. That's the part you want to break. Yep.
Yeah, people don't understand that it happens the moment you say it. It's just you got to kind of keep saying it to convince yourself that you did it.
There's something very powerful about you saying it out loud in agreement with your own soul.
They don't read your mind. That's why it's said out loud. They can't read your mind. They're not allowed.
Some of them can read your mind. Some of them can, for sure.
They read, okay. Let me be really specific. If they touch your spirit, you'll be alerted. And they stay away from that. They're not allowed to, in some respects, touch your spirit, but they can read everything around and off of you. Mm-hmm. But like they can't, if they get inside your brain and start reading you, people can wake up from it. They can end up waking people up inadvertently. And so they kind of have like a rule not to like get inside the mind, but so they find ways to read around it. Like, if you write with a pen or pencil on a piece of paper, your intentions come through in the words. Whether you write, I'm going to go to the store and buy $10 worth of bread, but in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you know what, and I'm going to drive and go somewhere else and play some slot machines. Mm-hmm. They see that in the writing. They see the
intention.
It's like reverse speech. It's like reverse speech. So I'll go back to the empathy. I came up with the term. People are sitting on the toilet inside their head. It's like a toilet in a room with no windows, dark black walls, and a door closed. And occasionally the controller will let them come out, and they come out and become themselves, and they get married and do things. And then they get put back in the toilet, and they never really get past the first three chakras. And so I called that the poo-poo, pee-pee, mouth syndrome. And it goes like this. These are the lower three chakras. People, when they're kind of taken over, all they care about is what comes out of their poo-poo and what goes in their poo-poo. And it's usually sex going in. They care about their pee-pee, what comes out, and where their pee-pee goes. And their mouth, they care about what goes in and what comes out, which is typically poo-poo. I call it shit.
Yeah.
And so people live at a guttural level.
Yeah, very base, very
base. Yeah. And so when you go to the empathy hug, which is such a weird word for it, but when you start moving into the emotions of like love and empathy, and things like that, then these guys start moving out because they were not created with that. They don't have it, nor do they have the capacity to obtain it or understand it. It's like fire and ice. It's like acid. They move away. They have to move away. They don't have a choice. And so in the conversations that I kind of had with them, they acted like after I got on the other side of this, they acted like my educators. Like I was here to go to school and they were my educators. And that's another con job. Because the rules are inside me, not inside them. They know the rules. It's inside them. It's inside all of us. We each have our own rule book. It's kind of like we're all a piece of creation, and our spirits are a piece of creation. Therefore, it has access to everything that everybody has access to everything.
Right.
And it kind of goes like this. This is how you checkmate. I don't know anything, so show me what I don't know. But the moment I say, oh, I know that, then it's kind of like God steps aside and go, oh, you know it? Go for it. Since you know it, you can go for it and go test yourself out. And when you get crushed, I'll come back and help you if you ask me. So my attitude is I don't know anything. I'm just telling you things that I saw. I don't know anything, and I'm just always asking, show me what I don't know. And what I see with this pandemic, because I don't really know what else to call it, is it's two parts. I see what's coming, which is really boring. I really don't care about it. But I see what potential lies within it. And because the controllers put this in play, and it's really a negative charge, it's such a massive negative charge that in order for them to continue to exist, if they continue down this path, they'll be consumed like a black hole. There needs to be a balancing effect so that they may maintain their existence. And that's where you and I and everyone else comes into play, where we start working in these higher chakras and these higher emotions and start creating a reality that we deem correct with the God consciousness.
Right.
And in doing so, they have to allow it, or else they'll become extinguished. They will actually cease to exist. So that's why it's time we can do it. It is not only allowed, it is demanded.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, I've been hearing all along, it's time for us to make our decisions, and we can't just wait for someone else to do that. And I know a lot of people are waiting for someone to show up and save everyone, and which is fine if you want to do that, but it's you still have to take your own empowerment back. And they've convinced us that we don't have anything for many, many years. Even our subconscious believes this because we've been oppressed for hundreds, thousands of years, depending on how old your soul is. And so you've learned what they wanted us to know. They've been sort of like a teacher to us for a very long time. Not a good teacher, but enough to get us manageable for them. And they've liked that. And it's just getting to a point where they kind of have everyone in their hands. And we have to say, no, I remember who I am, right?
So, yes. So the spirit leader calls me this morning, and I think it's a good segue into this. This is new information. There are many high vibrational races out there, and some of them have lived on this planet in the past, and they have a real kinship to this planet. They have an ownership and a right for being here. And they see that if they allow this to go to its bitter end, the planet can be destroyed. So they are trying to make contact with people to kind of like say, are you willing to help with us creating a positive energetic field that can counter this negative? Because if we don't, we're going to lose the planet. And so he calls me this morning and he says, this is really cool. He calls it a God consciousness that's working with him now that is different than in the past. And the word came out that as a backup plan, there are some that will be worked with to create a new reality within a reality. In other words, a dimension within a dimension. Like, it's not a portal, it's not remote viewing. These are all elementary things. They're not considered advanced things with these beings, but to create a new dimension within this current dimension, so that if in this dimension you're in this dimension, this earth is like a burnt cinder. In this new dimension, this is the backup plan for them. They're beginning to create it now, that there will be a new dimension where you'll be sitting in the jacuzzi with an umbrella drink, watching the surf. And so that's what he told me this morning, that they're in the process of creating this as a backup plan. They have ways about them that not only do we not understand as humans, but also these ETs that mess with us, they don't understand. Because you have to think of it like this. If you're a really advanced race and you're cruising along through space and you find these cavemen with long hair, long arms, dragging knuckles on the ground, you think you're going to go sit by the fire and have a nice conversation and enjoy a relationship with them? They'll probably want to eat you. So you're not going to stop by and, hey, say hi. You're just going to pass it on. So you have to think that since we were all living in this very low 3 chakras, poo-poo pee-pee mouse syndrome, these advanced races have a very difficult time to unlock the things necessary to be able to communicate with us, and they just can't do it. It's too difficult.
Right.
So, and humans are really unreliable. They really are very unreliable, and that is known. So they're more concerned with the planet than they are with the people, because they're not saviors. No one is a savior. That's a false concept. We save ourselves. So the ones that are dealing with us are of a low vibrational frequency. Regardless of how smart, how long they live, or how great their technology is, they are of a low vibrational frequency being here messing with us. They have these low vibrational agendas, and it's kind of like they're all in this trauma drama. Think of it like this. The Earth human, the way we just want to go to war at the drop of a hat, it's the physical manifestation of how all these ETs actually operate. We're just copying how they live. It's nonsensical. It's a 3-ring circus with a bad guy in a red jacket. He has a tail and horns. So everything that you see, the trampoline or the trapeze or the tiger eats the trainer, the trapeze guy falls off and dies. That's the circuits that's going on here.
Right. Right. I was actually talking about bread and circus recently.
Really?
because essentially that's the whole Roman thing that they did during the time of Rome when they were trying to pacify the people. They just gave them some entertainment and some bread to pacify them, and essentially that's what we're going through right now. A little bit of bread and circus, but it's interesting you brought up the whole circus part of it, because it is it's a game. They're entertaining us. They're trying to see if we figure it out. They're assuming that we won't, because for too long we haven't figured it out. And I think this is the first time we're starting to figure it out, but it's a little late in the game, So now we have to really try to figure out if everyone, gets in their place and kind of pulls together, and we can begin to say, let's rewrite this script, because we don't like the way the script is.
With everybody out there, that we all just start talking and we use each other as references, and we create like a spider web of connections. Because people like you, like me, if you notice, there is no neighbors in the neighborhood like you or like me. I have no one near here to talk to. We're all really far apart for a reason, but we can all interconnect and use the technology that's available at this time to at least carve out a good place for us. We're not going to save the world. We're not going to change the events. It's going to go to the bitter end. Every social society is on a path of suicide, and humanity is degenerating. And for those of you who don't want to go down that path, I'm just a reference. I'm not a guru. I don't know anything. I've had some experiences, and I tell you the best I can to explain them to you. I may not get them totally right, but I'm really trying to help. But when I get other people talking to me, it's not 1 + 1 makes 2. It's 1 and 1 make 11. And as we kind of share our experiences, it's kind of like group therapy in a way, but we're also using each other as references. Like, oh, you can do that. How can I do that? Oh, okay, I see it now. I'll try it. Okay, I can do it. And that's how it works. And that's what this spiritual guy's been teaching me. He does it, and I look at him and I go, wow, can I do that? He goes, yeah, you can do it. I don't need to do anything for you. Here, let me explain it to you. Okay, go. And then I take off and I go and I come back and he goes, okay, we'll do the next thing. And it was like that. step by
Well, we
step.
always talk about on my channel, and I've been talking about this for years, is it's the highest intention for humanity and align with that timeline. This is what we want. And we're meant here to thrive. We have all the tools, everything that we need. We just believe the story that we don't have anything, that we need someone else to guide us. Yeah, I'm not saying, like, I agree with you, we don't know everything, but we know enough that we can see and learn and grow, and we don't have to be dependent on someone telling us what to do, and we don't need ourselves to be laid open to be puppeted by anyone either. So if you don't assert yourself, if you don't make the effort for the changes that you need to make in this life, for your own personal life, you forget about blaming other people, forget about what happened in the past. This is the now when we make those changes. And so
Yes,
the conversations are going to do it.
Right. Conversations. And the method I found that he taught me, and it worked, was I discipline my emotions. I go to my heart. There are some exercises I know that can clear your heart. They're very simple and of negative. And then it's the heart, and the intensity of the emotions in a positive way that will wake up the spirit. And the spirit, you'll start having communications with your spirit. It kind of works like this. Like, a light bulb turns on, an idea flows in. Oh, wow, it seems like I know something for a moment. Or I'll say something that really helps somebody without even knowing what I'm saying to them. Right. I didn't even know what they were on. And so that's when you start accessing your spirit. And here's one of the exercises I did that was really kind of cool. I would sit at night, like midnight, and I would douse. I know how to douse. And there's a PDF out there called Letters to Robin. And it describes how to douse. And I started doing that, and I found that there's an unlimited use for the dowsing, and I used it to move energies through me and out and around, and to see things around me and to change circumstances around me energetically. And it has a really good impact. And it does really work. I just don't really know how it works. I don't really question it. It just works. So by doing that, I would neutralize everything, and I would calm myself down, and because midnight's a real still time. And then I said, hey, Spirit, if you want, just come out and sit next to me, and we'll have popcorn and watch a movie. And I'd literally just sit there and watch a movie and just be by myself. And I would invite my spirit to come out and hang out with me. And I would have a completely different experience. And then I felt like I was myself. I go, wow, this is me. This is cool. I like this.
And you don't feel alone. You feel like,
no, it's not alone at all.
There's this connection that you have. There are some people, if they're alone in a room for any length of time, it drives them crazy. I mean, they really feel like they start to get depressed, or they have all these different issues. And I've been working with people for years. I know all the different things that are going on, And so the feedback, I tell them is because you're not connecting in. Because if you connect it in, you can get lost in that space. I mean, people have actually gone into meditation and actually found the universe within themselves, essentially seeing the stars, planets, and everything else within themselves, as if the universe is reflected within us, or is within us reflected on the outside. I don't know, but I do know that there's like this wealth of amazing stuff that happens when we connect into our higher self and to the universe, into the God source, however you want to word it, but you know what I'm saying. And if you don't do that, you're missing everything. I mean, that is number one. That is number one. That is probably the most important thing that I've ever experienced. Everything after that is secondary in experience. It's interesting, and it helps us to grow. But that connection alone helps us feel whole. Once we feel whole, we have a better sense of who we are, how much we're worth, because the divine tells us we're like the divine, you know what I mean? We're a spark of the divine. So we have that self-worth. We know that we are worthy of love, appreciation, that we look at, something in the plant life and in animals, and we see the beauty in them, and then we can see the beauty within ourselves and in others. You have to go into that place. Everything opens up. And then it starts to have meaning.
From the spirit. Yeah,
right.
It flows from the spirit within.
Right.
And it's just accessing the spirit within. And for a lot of people, that's really, really tough. There's a lot of challenges to it. a lot of beliefs that have to be unraveled. Free will has
Yeah.
to be called. There's, changing negative to positive, neutralizing things. These guys are going to come around, these dark ones, and they're going to put all manner of ideas in people. See, the reason they interface in the back of the neck is because they actually put images and words in people's brains.
Negativity.
They're like,
I've seen people go, drop down like this, and they just think, well, I'm hearing all these negative things about myself, and I'm like, wait a minute, would you actually talk to yourself that way? Are you positive those are your words?
It's called disciplining the emotions, because those spark emotions, and those are negative emotions, and these guys feed on it. I was told to eat it.
Which creates a manifestation in your own life, which traps you in, and you become a slave. Again, all roads lead to slavery with them.
Yes. So I have a question I want to pose. I want to do an experiment with you, and I want you to just I want to hear what you have to say about it. Just listen. Okay. From research I've done, and this has to do with how to access yourself within. If we observe nature closely, the laws of the spirit and creation will be unlocked before us. And so I started looking at the atom, and there's 7 levels to the atom. And so I started looking at it. We got the electrons, then you got the protons and neutrons and the quarks, and it goes on down. And what I think the last couple of levels of the atom is, it's timelessness and spacelessness, is interdimensionalness. And that is where creation itself, its life force, comes through into the physical world through the last inner sanctums of the atom itself. And with that knowing, that means I took it to the next step. Well, if that's true, then every atom in my body has the capacity, if I intend it, to access creational life force and intelligence. And it's within that I'll find what's called this dark matter. And what dark matter seems to be is like, it's real, it's a matter, it's like waiting for a prime directive. It's like inert matter waiting for a prime directive, which is about 75% of the universe. So we have a potential within ourselves that is waiting for a prime directive. And we are given the gift of individual prime directive by our free will, given to us from creation itself. These controllers want to circumvent it and take it for their own use.
Through suggestions.
When we take it all back, the power is within us, not only within the atoms of our body, because of this trans-dimensional timelessness, spacelessness aspect of the inner sanctums of the atoms. That seems to be the conduit between which the spirit can come and go with the human body. So what do you think of that?
Yeah. I mean, there's actually, for the dark matter, my experience is it actually has a density to it. So we look at good and evil, in that, but there actually is, it's like a lighter energy, and then the darker energy. When I'm talking about, it's almost in weight, or texture or something, that has a little depth to it. And so it's through that quantum field that we have this interplay. I mean, we're doing all sorts of weird things. I mean, technically sometimes we're in parallels. I've worked with people, I've seen all sorts of like crazy things, like how in the world did you get over there? And it's like you're still operating, and my back hurts, and then I see them in like some kind of situation where they're laying down somewhere and they're injured, and so all of these things, how could you feel what's happening over there? But you do. Your spirit is amazing. It's like unbelievable, the capacity that we have. And you talk about, just the avatars and these very spiritual people are multi-locating. No, all of us are doing some really wild stuff. And it's normal. It's normal because of our that connection in interplay. like you said, with the energy and life force within us, or on an atomic level, which is essentially energy moving really, really fast, right? And so it's doing all these things by your direction. So that's if you control that and not let the suggestions dictate, there's the dictators right here, right? As the way that you're explaining, right? Mm-hmm. And that dictates, it starts saying, yeah, why don't you, you're not really that good at this. Yeah, you're right, I'm not really that good at this. Well, why don't people figure out this is a conversation? It's not a conversation with yourself, it's something else. So then you have to say, wait a minute, maybe I am good at it. I don't know if I'm good at it or not, but I'm not going to agree with you right now. Because I'm choosing to find.
Very good point. The only reason I was able to get here is I just would have a question and I would test it. I would read something, I would consider it, and I would test it. I was always testing it. But people wonder, they think I need a bench with a grinder and I stick a screwdriver on it and I grind it to the hilt and I see if I can still use it. It's not a test like that. It's not a material thing. It was conceptual things. It was philosophical things. It was things of, if I could live a life free of post-traumatic stress disorder and nightmares and sleepless nights, what would my life be like? That's where it started. I stuck a gun in my mouth, pulled the trigger. The gun didn't go off because my spirit popped out of me and said, you can take it with you or you can leave it here, and showed me all the darkness inside me. And I saw myself like a little guy on top of the tiny chisel, ding, 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 trying to chip away at it the rest of my life. And he said, my spirit said, if you take it with you, it's very difficult to get rid of on the other side. You'll have to come back and add more to it. And it just basically, you're in a cascading problem that continually escalates and you actually don't progress, you degenerate. So it's best not to do that. What do you want to do? And I said, I'll stay here and do the hard thing. And he goes, okay. I pulled the trigger, nothing, gun was fine, didn't go off. And I was given a second chance and I started chipping away at this negative inside me, and it's taken 25 years and I'm still doing it. And I realized it's kind of like a labor of love. It's so weird to say that. But
well, because each time you chip something away, it feels lighter. It's almost like someone took some lead shoes off of you. Or a really heavy jacket. It's a really weird sensation, but you feel it right away. Yep. You say, boy, I didn't really need that, did I?
Yeah, so everybody out there has the potential to do that, and it's a very simple thing. And it was, one of the things was calling back our free will. The other is clearing out our heart, and then disciplining our emotions. And then we contact our spirit here through our heart here, and then it begins a communication process, because our conscious mind is quite fallible. And we just let the process happen. It happens on its own. We don't have to do anything. We're busy enough cooking dinner and eating it and pulling the sheets back and laying in bed, and that's a whole laborious act. And so we have things tasked physically that we have to do all the time. And this thing, as you just kind of intend to discipline it and get it under control, those are the wrong words. As you desire to want to go in this direction, it's like, oh, you want to go that way? Oh, okay, that's ready for you. Cling, here's a switch. We'll turn it on and you're good to go. It's like already ready to go. You just have to want to do it.
Mm-hmm. So sometimes a short intention, if you watch yourself, your spirit actually jumps ahead of seeing it happen. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in remote viewing, everybody asked me about, okay, so I did that show 9 days ago. And I've been on the phone and email and chat and all that for like around the clock for 9 days. And what I found was people want to know how to access their spirit within, to get to this rule book, to get themselves free. And that's really it. And then a few people have called me with, these are the things that I've learned, and passed on more information from me. And then I realized, you know what, this is a very humbling experience. There's some really awesome people out there. Yeah. And they're just like, they want to be under the radar, and they don't know anybody else is out there. And so it's like a spider web. This is how you remote view. And this also works for telepathy, which I was told there's like physical telepathy and spiritual telepathy. They're a little different. Because you're communicating with your conscious mind, you're communicating with your spirit within. The conscious mind has like a limit how far it can go, but the spirit can go across the universe in an instant. So it's like a spider web in remote viewing. And so I'll talk to you, and you'll talk about somebody you know. And so you keep talking about them, and I'm listening to you, and you have some questions about them. And so what I do is I'm connecting to you. It's kind of like a spider web, and then through you and your focus on them, you have that spider web. I just go find it, and I tease it, and I go boink, and I go over to that guy, and then I just kind of block you off, and I just look at him. Now I'm connected to him because I found him. You're my reference, and then I can tell you what he's up to. And what I found is it's really pretty easy to do that. That was after a lot of exercise, a lot of work, and I realized seems to be the lot in life that the controllers always make things seem so freaking hard when it's super simple.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Here's a good one. Like checkmating, the rule book is to help you checkmate the controllers, and it goes like this. If you want access to the God consciousness, it's not ego driven. So it's like, I don't know anything. Show me what I don't know. Well, you just checkmated the universe, and now it's going to have to release everything it knows. It's kind of a rule. If you get in toe-to-toe with a controller, as we did today, it went kind of like this, like, hey, you guys, you're trespassing on my territory. And then we said, well, what makes you think that there's any territory here to be had? You're doing things on this planet, and it's in full view for anyone to see. So what makes you think it shouldn't be seen? You're in the light. And you're really in the light right now. So do you want to go in peace, or do you want to go in pieces? And then we started feeling this like agitation, like to make us aggressive. And then I started laughing, and I said, oh, you want to play that game? And then there was oh, you're insulting me. And so I was making up all my gestures and addresses and everything that came right back down to, hey, look, here's the deal. You're doing things. There is light, and when light shines on something, it's going to be seen. And if you know a way to get around that, you let me know. And it was kind of went that direction, not exactly. And then what happened? The guy, he was gone. And that's kind of how it works all the time. And
yeah.
So here's the dilemma that a lot of people came across to me. I married this person, and now they're different. And now they're like the evil dungeoner guy or the evil witch girl. And what it is a lot of times is people of a spiritual nature will end up with somebody who the controller allows that real person to come out of the toilet and to kind of be themselves. And they marry the real person, and then the controller jumps back in and starts taking over, and that person commits adultery, steals from them, rips people off, ends up in jail, beats the kids. I mean, you end up like, what the heck happened?
Yeah. Who is this person?
Yeah, and you end up in like an adversarial relationship, and you're wondering, like, dude, I loved you. Why are you doing this to me? And then, and that happens all the time, and that's what the controllers are dealing with. And so, what I had to do with my kids, if we're running out of time, you let me know. What I had to start doing is, I had to, for 20 years now, 15 years now, I've been telling my kids exactly what we talk about. I openly discuss it. If a person is doing something wrong, I tell them exactly what they did, what they're doing wrong, and I tell them where it's going to take that person. I also expose to them that in order to get through life, you need to be an observer more than an actor. Because the more you want to go out there and dance around and act and get into the fray of things and get a lot of commotion going, the more you expose yourself to the controllers, and the more they can take advantage of you. So I tried to come back down to a very simple life, and a very direct life. I found myself to be more productive, financially more secure, and I don't really need anything.
Right. You stopped needing certain things that you thought you needed.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
It's kind of a weird feeling, but always it's the level of contentment.
Right.
When you're connected, you literally feel like you're more whole, and you don't need all of these other things that literally are filling in the emptiness or the void. And you get rid of that void. Not entirely, of course, because we're still in kind of a surroundings or a reality that's out of our control, but not fully. But either way, we're going through this experience, and if you take care of yourself, you'll be stronger. You'll be able to survive regardless of what happens. You'll get through it with intention and will. You're going to get through a lot of the stuff, and with good intention, to not to, hey, I'm going to take care of this and ruin that or whatever, but mostly, I have something to contribute here, and I know that there's a purpose for me to be here. I mean, there are people that want to leave, but most of the people I'm talking about want to be here.
I wanted to leave my whole life. I didn't want to be on this planet.
Yeah,
I felt like I got thrown.
I know. Here. There's people like that, yeah. And I I don't know if I really felt that way, but I kind of kept on saying, hey, I have someone else's life right now, and I don't want that life. I want my life back. You know what I mean?
I remember before I was born, and I went to this guy and I said, hey, man, you're really wise. It turns out he was middle management, but at the time I thought he was a really wise man. Now I call him a wise guy. And so, you know what I mean? So you're going to have fun with this stuff. You can't get all serious about it. And they do take offense to it. And if you just kind of keep it jovial and light and say, hey, man, look, I'm not really trying to insult anyone. I just think this is a really fun game. And I don't know why you keep doing it. You're like kind of got yourself on a hamster wheel. I kind of feel bad for you. And, they realize that that's a true statement, and they don't really do it.
They are miserable. They're very miserable.
Yeah,
but they got themselves in a weird bind, and they keep on doing the things that they weren't supposed to do, and they know they weren't supposed to do it. But we don't have to be locked into their reality. This is their stuff that they're going to have to deal with, and we don't have to be a part of their stuff. We're supposed to be a part of our own stuff.
So what I see in my mind. And my life has always been, if I can see it, I can do it.
Yep.
As we all start just being references to each other and sharing not just what we know, but what we have inside us, because each of us has a little different piece of the pie.
Right.
And by doing this, and talking to my this spiritual man about creating this new dimensional as a backup plan, it's like a spider web. We just all connect and we just all start talking and we just allow this process to happen. Because I tell you what choice do we have to allow this pandemic process to happen? I'm going to tell you where that's going. You need your vaccine card to travel. Where's your vaccine card? Where's your digital currency now? You're not going to have real currency anymore. The American dollar is dust. And where are you going to go in regards to travel? Well, you're going to have to go quarantine right now anywhere you travel to practically. Right. So that's not worth it. Where are you going to move to? Well, I'll tell you what, try to open up an escrow account right now to buy a house. It ain't going to happen. Everything's on standstill. The countries are going to go into this lockdown sort of system to where you're going to have a reason that you want to go somewhere or a reason to move. And it's all about watching every move you make, tracking everything you do because of the virus, whatever that is. And I'm saying something that's really volatile right now, but due to the intent of my attitude and my intent on this, it's to create an alternate reality that we want to create, because what's coming is not, I don't want it. And we're allowed to do that. We're allowed, because it's a worldwide thing, because these ding dongs went and did it the whole globe. In order for them to survive, we have to be allowed to create our own reality.
But you said you said that you had an awareness of this information when you went to visit Billy Meier's because it's part of their playbook. This is part of their script, right?
Right. The pandemic is part of their script.
Okay. So can you share with us what you read from their this is their information that's available for anyone, right?
Yeah, they can get it. If you go to figu.org, figu.org, and you go to Switzerland. And then you can go to the newsletters, and then you have to translate them in Google Translate. You download the file, it's a PDF, and then you just put it in as a file in Google Translate, and it'll translate the whole thing for you. And these are the things that they said in the last couple ones. The latest one, I haven't read the whole thing. But it goes kind of like this. We need to enforce a stop birth rate control through one system. Well, what does that sound like? New World Order.
New World, yeah.
Tesla. These are just highlights. Tesla really did a disservice to the world by creating alternate current energy. It's causing the weather to change and destroying the atmosphere. Guns create, what did they say? I think it was methane gas. get firearms create methane gas, and we should stop that. So what does that infer? Oh, we should remove guns from everybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they were promoting a communist-style Chinese-type regime for the world to get the birth rate under control and do it under kind of an authoritarian manner. It started sounding tyrannical. And then I go, oh, you guys have been talking for so many years. Now the real Plejarians are showing up here. And there's a lot of good information in there. It's really worthwhile to go and look at all this stuff. They're treating this pandemic as, you might as well turn on CNN News, because they're treating it kind of like CNN News. This is a real serious thing. It's really bad. So I emailed Christian a document from the U.S. Patent Office.
Christian is
he's the point of contact for public relations for Billy Meier in Switzerland.
Okay.
And I admit I know him a little bit. Sometimes he responds to me. He doesn't anymore, which I don't really care. He said, okay, it goes like this. I showed him how the weather is being mechanically altered in a big way, and he wrote back and said, well, kind of like, that's not true. What it is overpopulation. And I wrote back and they said, that would sound like an answer I would expect from a cult. That didn't go very well.
Or the Georgia Guidestones or something.
Yeah. I had a lot of problems after that, spiritual attacks and stuff. And so I found that these players are kind of vindictive. I've also read in the contact notes where they actually come in and they manipulate our timeline to make sure their ancient prophecies come true.
Yes.
Which I thought was really.
And they've done this a few times. How many times have they played this out? Well, we had, the mud flood where they did a reset. They did another one in the early 1900s. The Spanish flu, which was a bioweapon pandemic. So, yeah, they've done it a few times to us. So we still haven't figured it out that we have cities under cities. No one wanted to talk about it.
They seem to have agreements with the Men in Black, with the controllers. They seem to have bilateral agreements with these guys.
Slender Men, and all that stuff.
They seem to all kind of work together.
I call it Dark City. You remember that movie, Dark City?
Yeah.
Yeah. They move everything around. Everyone's disoriented. They don't know what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of the things were like, well, it's just really too much information to kind of go through. But these just examples, there's a lot of them like this, where there were a lot of inconsistencies and there were like positions that were held that were really not to our benefit, that were not really like, how would I say, what do you call it when someone's they weren't acting like benefactors. They're acting more like controllers.
Right.
So
they were dictating how our paradigm should be in accordance to what would benefit them.
Correct.
Yeah. That's
correct. That's the gist of it. So, when I started talking about that with these people, these Billy Meier people, that's when a lot of nefarious stuff started going on in my home. Things got kind of really weird and really bad. And so I just don't talk to them anymore. It's really a shame, but that's just how they go. It seems to me whenever you get two or more humans together, you're going to end up having a religion. And so when you have something like where, I'm just a reference. If you're coming to me because you want a reference to help you, that's a benefit to yourself and to, your family, your community, your society. And that's the proper way to do it. And then we kind of interlink with each other, and then we become more of a whole. We become whole in ourselves and we become whole as a people. And in that process, we create a paradigm through our connection to our spirit within, which will kind of automatically have a collective agreement, because our spirit within resonates to creation itself, the God consciousness.
Right.
And so it creates a sort of a self-correcting energetic field. And what I found with this post-traumatic stress, that it started going away. I did that. Mm-hmm. And I did all these therapies, all these kind of weird EFT programs and tapping and stuff, and it just kind of really trashed me. But by going down this path, I started becoming whole. And I started remembering a lot of stuff. And I started helping people. I started helping my family, of all people. I started helping my family. My wife that was possessed with this controller inside her, and I moved him out. Boy, he was mad. Didn't even give him 30 days of notice. I got evicted. He didn't even have time to call his buddies in for reinforcement to kick my butt before I moved him out. It happened instantaneously. And then they attacked me, and I ended up in bed for 2 months. I couldn't get out of bed. Right. And I felt like I was dying. And then whatever. So I turned it all into a positive thing. I took my kids, and I explained exactly what was going down. And they're the little kids. And I told my older son what was going down. And I think it's helped them, to help edify them. It's helped them to know what to look for. So I tell my kids what to look for. I don't tell them what to do so much. I just say, well, you want to do that? Well, this is what do you think will happen? I just ask questions. And so it helps them build especially now, because they're not going to school. Boy, the opportunity to teach your kids now is no better than ever in every time of history. Because now they're with us all the time.
And things that are important. Things that are really important. Because they've missed it. Yeah, they're missing it in our society. They're not learning basic, things that we need for basic things for survival that we assume that children should know, and they don't know.
So take your parents, for example, say they're still alive. I don't know if they are or not, but they're alive. And they have a certain language they grew up with from school and work and everything. And then you grow up, and then you have kids, and then they grow up. Imagine their great-grandkids coming in and trying to talk to them about Facebook and texting and email. They're going to look at I don't know what you're talking about. So every generation has a massive language barrier between the generation before it, because new words come out and new definitions of existing words come out, and then they change words defining things to another words. And it's it's actually kind of done on purpose.
Yes, it is.
Generation from generation passing on information. It's the same as having a home and a bank account. You die, well, frickin' the state takes it all. That's a crime. But they do it anyway, because they don't want any one family figuring out how to create an empire. They want to take everybody back to the state of poverty.
Well, with this COVID-19, we discovered that when the elderly get sick, it's almost like they're being left alone to die, because they're taking care of the ones that are younger. And so people would say, well, why are they doing that? I mean, technically, the elderly people are a connection to the past in our history. They want us to always forget our history. That way they can further mold us into whatever they want us to believe. And they did that, during the 1900s, where there were all these orphans. What happened to all the parents? A lot of them died during the pandemic. Why is it that the parents were more vulnerable than the children? Well, there's a way of engineering these things, or the way that things are handled and managed. And so, that's how you shift and change and make a whole civilization forget who they are, is get rid of the elderly.
Yes. And I found that by these types of this type of talk, it helps people hopefully identify things. But I found the thing that really helped the most was the methods on getting to the rule book inside. That seems to be the thing everybody wants to do. There are a lot of people that are right on the cusp of getting to it, and they're just kind of missing one or two or three pieces of information, and they just need that, and then they're off and running. This stuff is not written down. This stuff is not to be found. You can research your whole life and never get it. This comes from within. And I had it passed on to me from this spiritual guy. And I asked him one day, I go, hey, can I do the things you're doing? And he looked and he goes like this. He goes, yeah, you can. I go, why? He goes, well, I'll tell you a story. A lady came over here one day from the East Coast, and she could talk to any spirit that was out there. And I thought that was fascinating. And I asked her, can I do that too? And she looked at me and she goes, I guess so. And he goes, can I use you as a reference, if you're all right with that, to be able to connect and do the same as you? And she goes, yeah, sure, go ahead. And so now, man, the guy has full-on conversations with the spirits in the area, or higher level beings. He's really a pure-hearted guy. If you walk down the street, I mean, if you've met him in the grocery store, you just think he's like some guy just buying some eggs and bread, and you might want to say, hey, you can go first, you know, and that's about it. He's a very nondescript kind of guy. I was talking to you earlier about a gentleman in England that wanted to write the rule book down in a story format. And we talked about how to do that with open-ended stories so that people can pick their own way of testing it. Because Aesop fables, they kind of like tell you, don't do this. Okay, this guy did this thing and boom, don't do this. And that wouldn't work. And then was another guy that wants to write a book on Satanism and all things. And so I told him, I go, dude, I'm going to have to figure out how to deal with this and tie it into the rule book. And these two guys were writing together, and they broke apart. And then I ended up coming in because, you know, I did that show, and they got my email, and they both talked to me. And I'm kind of an oddball dude. I can, like, dance on the head of a pin. I can have a foot in the dark and a foot in the light at the same time, and I don't get bothered by it. And a lot of people who aren't able to do that. They get scared.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I don't get scared.
But you've been through a lot. I mean, you were a Navy SEAL. You've been through all sorts of different things and different types of experiences. And I would love for people to have your email because I think people need to connect with you. And you know, just like you said, there's a lot of different pieces of the puzzle. And I've always said that. This is why I put my channel together. And I ask people to leave messages. Of course, I don't, you know, some of the stuff where they're just criticizing just to criticize. You know, I have a right to remove that too. I get free will. So I just, whoever, you know, people want to put something significant and allow someone else to think about it. And I don't ever say that anything's like 100% wrong or right because it's expression.
Fluid.
It's an experience. Yeah, it's fluid. So, yeah, we can definitely put your email address, but I want people to have clarity about what is the rule book. Can you define the rule book according to what you believe it is?
Yeah, it's really simple. How do you checkmate the universe? How do you checkmate the controllers? How do you checkmate someone who's challenging you? And how do you do it in truth and in light and in a positive way with an equal outcome where both parties walk away with respect for the day? There is no win, there is no loss. In respect, that's a neutral position, and both parties can create out of that what they wish. It leaves free will intact in both parties, and that's the rule book.
Yeah, it's
really
like a thought form, something that it's almost like it laid down inside our consciousness. Mm-hmm. It exists there. It's just a matter of awakening to it. Is that
yes,
kind of what you're saying?
To it. Yeah, and a lot of people have to go through a lot of steps to awaken to it, like unravel scripts in their mind, belief systems, realize that they can go within themselves, realize they may have some negativities in their heart, hurts in their heart, pains. They may have a problem with their emotions running away with them, and they have to get them sort of in control. Because when these controllers come to you, they're gonna throw everything in the kitchen sink on the table to try and get you to react and get all screwed up. Rewind, go zip back and listen to what I said again, and that's what you say. That's how it's handled. And it's the same every time. Because all they're doing is they're just changing the colors of the same situation. It's like, how many versions of the day the Earth stood still are we going to watch over the next 20 more years? We're going to get another movie on it? It's right. The same script. So no matter the show that they are talking to you about, it's exact. That's why it's only like a paragraph. Their deal is
it's always the same. It will never change because it's always worked. And this is the first time it has to not work.
Yep. And this is checkmating them, and this is going out to the public. It's not been done before. Not even in ancient times was this information to be given to the minions, because even those ding-dongs wanted control. They wanted slaves to feed them, and they could sit around and do nothing all day.
Right.
So
but
now
the same controllers were there then. They're old. They're very old. They've been around the block many times. And you know,
this goes back multi-billions of years.
Yeah, they're galactic beings. They're galactic.
Yes.
They other civilizations had dealt with them before. Even if we were extremely old and have lived in other civilizations, we're familiar with them.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're family. So treat them like the black sheep of the family. They're family. Just love them. Trips them up, man. They don't go, boing. Thanks so much. So it's CFI. My email is cfihawaii@gmail.com.
CFI Hawaii
@gmail.com.
@gmail.com. And we have Bob Wiegand.
Bob Wiegand, Wiegand.
Okay. And so, leave whatever comments you want to leave and share with us some really, really great information that can be built on, and we can learn more. And remember, each one of us has a piece of the puzzle. This is what we really need right now. And they have our attention. They have us locked in, but our spirit is never locked into anything.
And there is help from very high beings that will
accommodate us and will help us. We're ready to step out of this paradigm, not just to escape, but to achieve our own sovereignty and understanding that we don't need someone to tell us what to do and micromanage us anymore. I mean, we're going to learn, but not under these parameters. So
correct. Self-responsibility.
We say we don't consent, we don't agree to their agendas any longer.
We can do this on our own. We don't need someone else.
Right.
We're responsible. We're responsible enough. We're grown-ups.
Right.
It's time for us to play our own game and have fun at it.
Right. And so you can thank you. I was going to say, you going to come back again sometime? We'll have another conversation.
Yeah. Maybe people can throw a ton of questions out there and we can delve into them and see what we find. Because it's kind of weird. If you throw questions at me as I delve into them, because I've been dealing with this spiritual leader, and I have a friend for like almost 10 years now that we discuss on a daily basis these topics in great detail, that sometimes things just kind of flow out. I go, where'd that come from? And so we test it to see if it's actual, and then we find ways to test it. I may not know how to do a test at the moment, but we end up finding out how to do it. And then we end up finding that we're always right. That's the crazy thing. We keep finding that we're right. And what we found was Billy Meier and his crazy Plejarians started coming out with newsletters countering everything that we came up with, and we never went public.
Wow.
It was just between him and me.
Yeah, because they're watching. Yeah. They're watching. They know how to do that.
Yeah. All right.
Interesting.
Well, thanks so much, darling. I really appreciate it. You've been so kind. Your kind words and your encouragement. And
yeah, I have my moments. Trust me. People know that sometimes they call me other names, but that's okay.
You gotta have a balance,
I get a little fired up. They don't know how to deal with me. Overall,
you gotta have a balance. You can get too lovey-dovey. You gotta go crazy a little bit.
Yeah, it's good to have some passion about certain things, and really at this point, no holds barred. We just have to go for it 100%, and let's make the shift. Let's make the change. Let's create that paradigm that's ours, and don't look back anymore. Stop complaining about what happened in the past. Let's just move forward. Right?
Yeah, just be curious. If you don't know what to do, just be curious. Ask a question. The stupider the question, the more information you actually get, because it's actually showing that you don't know anything and reveal to me what I don't know. So ask the stupidest questions you can come up with, the dumbest ones, because you're going to get the most information out of it. Everything is inverse, man. It's crazy. It's really cool. I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you.
Okay. Be well. Talk to you later. Thank you.
Aloha, everybody. Bye.
All right, bye.
You have been listening to Andronetalks Radio. Join us on YouTube channel Jessica Arael Morocco and visit our website at www.readingsbyarael.com.